Hello, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing great on this beautiful Monday morning. Welcome to Instagram Live and welcome to Facebook Live. So many of you are going to be watching this in the future as well. So welcome to YouTube and Zappit and LinkedIn and all the other fun social media outlets that many of you are going to watch us on in the future. If you are watching this with me live on Monday when we get finished, please share this on your Instagram and your Facebook. That would mean the world to me because you never know exactly what message someone needs to hear that could trigger something and set them free. So definitely tune into that. So I'm excited today. I hope everyone's having a great morning so far, or maybe in your side of the world it might be an evening or night, but either way, I hope you had or are having a good day today. All right. So, and I'm so glad and looking forward to all my friends. I know some of you are so many regulars of mine that I know you by name, whether I prophesy to you or you read my books or we engage or interact in life coaching. I'm just glad and honored all of you guys are with me today on this beautiful journey we call life. You know, before I start today, I'll tell you this. I had a lady who brought it in, who said something to me a couple of months ago, and she said, you know, life is full of this and life is full of that. You know, she said, I wish my life could get better. I wish my life, you know, could go this way. And I said, I think we don't stop to think about the fact that when Jesus said, you know, I've come to give you life and life more abundantly, that, you know, life doesn't mean perfect. Life doesn't mean just all the good things. Life doesn't mean, life, the word life is positive when it's considered or held up to the word death, right? You have death and life. But life is not considered, a life of perfection or a life where everything's going to go good. You know, when he said abundant life, he didn't mean, that means when you receive me into your heart, you know, that the rest of your life, abundant life is going to be great. It means you're going to have more of an abundance of life, whatever life brings to you. Now, you might say, what does it look like? And of course, this is not my message, but I want to get into this for a moment. I feel like it's for somebody. Abundance of life represents the fact you're going to have more of an impact, more of a deeper commitment to the life in which God's given you. So, you know, that's why you hear people, let's say, we'll say of the world, whatever term you want to use, you know, people out there, you know, you'll hear them say, man, I don't like life, you know, or I wish life was better, you know, or my life is great. You know, the key thing is you have to remember that when God died, when Christ died to give us life and life more abundantly, abundance of life means you're going to have a deeper impact. We could say impacting of whatever life brings to you, not the perfection of life, not all the good things that life will bring to you from here on out, because there will be no more bad things, because, you know, he made it plain, you know, that in this life there'll be trials and tribulations. So what he's saying here is, you know, when he says even of be of good cheer, what he's saying is abundance of life means you're going to have more of an impacting depth of whatever life brings to you. Why? Because when you dive into the journey of life, the abundance of life shows up, which means you have more of an impact of change in your life. You'll have a more of an impact of your heart being changed. You have more of an impact of your spirit being changed, more of an impact of your head being changed, you know, your life, your attitude. I mean, so these are the things that we have to remember, you know, because I think sometimes people think that sometimes the Bible is like some kind of lucky charm, lucky rabbit's foot or something, you know, or like, you know, that when we hear, you know, he's died to give us life and life more abundantly, it's like we think that all of a sudden we have this life more abundantly on this like rabbit tail, you know, foot, whatever you want to call it, you know, as kids, as if that means my life is going to go great from here on out. But abundance of life doesn't mean that. It means you're going to have more of an impacting depth of the life that has been presented to you. So it'll mean more to you. You'll get more out of it. You will learn more through let's say the hard times, the bad times that life brings you, and you'll rise up through it. You know, abundance of life. Let me say this also. Abundance of life also represents the fact of, you know, when you get knocked down, abundance of life means that you engage in life so much and you begin to see the glass half full and not half empty, that when you do happen to get knocked down in life, you will rise to the occasion. You'll be like that phoenix rising from the ashes. You will rise quicker because abundance of life has been shed abroad to you in a revelatory way that's letting you know, hey, come on now, you got an impact you got to make in this life, because a life is wanting to impact you, and you need to impact life and everyone around you. So that's a key thing people don't realize, what life really is all about. And these are the things I believe is really gonna mean something to people when they say, now I get it. Because it's easy when we say, now that I'm a Christian or I have abundance of life, that my life is going to go great and dandy and perfect and I can just wishful think everything. That's not how life works. In fact, I was sharing this the other day on my Facebook, that, iron sharpens iron. That's a very loud, horrible sound when you hear iron against iron. It is just like excruciating to my ears, or to your ears. But what it means is sometimes the rough things of life and the hard-hitting things of life and the things you really don't want to hear about life, those are going to be more impacting to you because it's going to awaken you to get your attention, right? That's why. It doesn't come softly and gently, as old hymn says, where God is like, oh, let me just pet you and make you feel good and you'll wake up from this. No, sometimes the impacting parts of life that sounds rough to the ears to say, wake up, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute. And you have an epiphany, you have an awakening, you have, something that awakens inside of you. That's why the Bible says, awakest thou who sleeps and slumbers. Because when you're asleep, sometimes you got to shake that person and say, hey, wake up. You know what I mean? So wanted to sort of clear the air on that for some people that might need a little bit of that revelation to say, now I get it. Now I have an aha moment. So let's talk for a moment about programmed purpose. Now, first of all, we have the link on here, or my team will put on here in a minute, about healing from dis-ease. Healing from dis-ease. Because once again, we said this a couple weeks ago, where, disease, without the hyphen, is something we don't want, right? But with the hyphen, it means dis-ease, which means when you live a life that has been programmed by, let's say, and I'm not one to say blame people. I'm just not that person to say, you're the way you are because you're a parent. No, take responsibility, grow up, put your big boy pants on, and quit blaming everyone else around you, Adam. You know what I mean? This woman you gave me. No, Adam. Take responsibility. It's your life, right? People might have influenced you, but somehow you let it into your subconscious because you said, knock, 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 come on in. You know what I mean? So, but that's the first key to true awakening, and the first key to reality is the acceptance, but the recognition of, what? I can't blame anyone except myself, because the moment I own my own responsibility is the moment something of a key in that key lock begins to unlock to say, now you can officially change. You don't change by saying, my mother did this to me, my dad did this to me. You change and healing does not happen from that. I'll be very honest with you. Could things happen to you as a kid that were devastating, that did program you before you knew about the deprogramming and unprogramming and the knowing how to program your life? Absolutely. Is it okay to recognize that? Absolutely. But it's not okay to live there, because when you grow up, you got to put away childish things, which means you got to put away the stinking thinking of, his fault, her fault, I'm the way I am. No, because the moment you awaken to who you are, here's what I say. The moment you're at that age, whether it's 16, 18, 21, 45, or 14, the moment you awaken to the fact, hey, I am this way because, the moment you recognize that one phrase, I am this way because, that shows you right there that God is saying you have awakened to what has happened to you. You've awakened to what you are now in a negative way and how you got it. So now you're held accountable. Sometimes it's almost like, man, I wish I never knew that. The moment I know something, the moment I say to myself, I don't know how to show love because of. Bam, right there God says, hold on. You just proved to me that you're old enough to be responsible, because you own the fact of what is wrong with you. You own the fact what has happened to you. The moment you recognize that you are this way, or that you recognize you're that way, the moment you do, God's like, you recognize it, now you got to acknowledge it, now you got to own it. And you're like, man, to say in the South, crap, dadgummit, Lord, because it's like the moment you feel that, the moment you get to that place to say, I'm not loving because, or I don't trust people because, the moment you do, God says, you've acknowledged it, now you got to own it. Now isn't that crazy? You're sitting there going, man, Why can't I just live in a place of ignorance, you know? But that's the great thing about the kingdom, because the moment you acknowledge how you were programmed and what you have been programmed to, the moment you do, God's like, stop. You just proved to me something. You just proved what's wrong with you. You recognize your problem. Now you gotta fix it, Jeremy. And you can't blame mom and dad and the grandma down the street, the neighbor, the teacher, the uncle, the aunt. Nope, 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 nope. Now you know what you become, and the moment you know what you become is the moment you take responsibility for it, right? And once again, can the choir say, Dad gummit, why did I have to own that? Why did I have to acknowledge that? Because that's really the truth of the matter, you know? And so the beautiful thing about the kingdom is that's when we have the epiphany, the awakening, the revelatory, acknowledgement of, okay, I can own it. So now we can reprogram our purpose, because other people's purpose towards you might have been bad. Other people's, programmed purpose for your life, maybe through parents or anybody else, maybe they didn't know that they meant bad. Here's the thing. Not everybody, here's what I tell people. When you look at society as a whole, and we'll take everybody that all of us have been influenced by, or that we hear in the media so much, right? When you think about people, let's say your mother and father, mom and dad don't wake up and say, I'm going to have a kid and I'm going to deliberately destroy them, Nobody's going to do that. I mean, unless you're like totally possessed by some crazy devil, you know what I mean? I mean, like you have been taken over, like the movie Alien, with Sigourney Weaver. It's like, unless you've been really taken over, which I doubt you would be, or your mom, dad would be, then you have to realize that some people just do things out of ignorance and don't realize it, out of a lack of knowledge, because no one's trained on perfection 101, right? And so when we talk about program purpose, I want to deal with this for a moment before we get on this ease part. That's why I always say, we can't look at our lives and say, my mother wanted to destroy me. I doubt that. I really seriously doubt she wanted to destroy you. She might have had a lack of knowledge. She might have been a little ignorant. Maybe she did the best she thought she could do. Who knows? But the thing is, we can't say that. It's like saying this. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, I don't really care. But here's the key thing. When we get on a childishness and we say, like our mother and dad want to destroy us, or, Hillary Clinton was out to kill us. You really think that a woman's going to wake up one day and say, I'm going to destroy everybody and I'm going to kill everybody? Nobody thinks that way, folks. Let's be real about it. Obama, Trump, Hillary, nobody's gonna, these are parents of children, for God's sake. They don't wake up and say, hey, honey, guess what? I'm going to the office today and I'm going to destroy everybody in the nation with me, take them all down. Come on. That's, pardon me, but that's just total stupidity. People that believe the far left and the far right is just, don't get me started. It's just ridiculous. It shows our lack of knowledge, of being so ignorant. Nobody wakes up to think that. These are parents of people. People just see things differently, and maybe they just have a different point of view. But nobody's going to sit there and say, like the Wizard of Oz, I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. Come on. Nobody's going to think that way. And so, for me, that's why I don't think that everybody is going to, is how the media or our pastors or people project them. You're a parent, for God's sake. Come on. So that's why I'm saying you can't sit there and say it's her fault, his fault, their fault. No, it's your fault. It's your fault. You believed them. You took them hook, line, and sinker. You bought into it, and therefore their ignorance, their lack of knowledge, their opinions, their ideas, whether they're good or bad, they programmed you until you had a moment to say, 13, 14, 18, 19, 21, to say, oh, wait a minute, hold on, whoa, I now recognize what has been programming me and why I'm the way I am. And then once again, God says, great, own it, you're responsible for it, now change it. God will, literally, He will put it in your lap to change you. God is not going to say, well, let me just change every bit of you. No, because he didn't say, I'm going to force the mind of Christ in you. That's almost like, no offense when I say this word, but it's almost like raping somebody. God is not going to forcefully give you the mind of Christ and say, wham, bam, you're changed. No, He's going to say, then take on the mind of Christ. Take on me. Take upon me. Take the mind of Christ. Let it help you by renewing your mind, and then coming forth, rising from the ashes like the phoenix, coming forward and recognizing what has been done to you. Now you are now required to fix you through me, and let the mind of Christ and the renewed mind help you to walk along the path to work out your salvation from what's been done to you with fear and trembling. And therefore we look and we say, you know what? We can say, hey, in essence, like the old song, I did it my way. We did it God's way, yes, but we also did it the way that we knew God wanted us to do it, because he puts it in your lap. Because he says, you draw near to me, I'll draw near to you. The first step is you got to draw near. Right? Which means your action is your responsibility, not God's. God is not going to force something on you. And trust me, I have been the same way, where sometimes I might blame God or get aggravated, and I have to come to my senses to realize God has given me all things that pertain to life and godliness. And outside of giving me all things, I can't blame anybody else but myself. And that's hard to do, is to blame yourself. Let's just say it's hard to do, to say, okay, Jeremy, it is your fault. Not to condemn you, Jeremy, not to put you down, not to say you're a horrible, rotten person, because you're not. But when you own it, to say, hey, it is my fault. I take full responsibility. Then you have the chance that the same power you used to turn something around for bad it can have the same effect, and because you recognize the same power you have to now make it good again, to reconcile or to reprogram yourself. So that's a beautiful thing about even this book of healing from dis-ease, is because I have a chapter in there called Programmed Purpose, because you have to begin to realize that in order for me not to feel diseased or uneased, then which means it actually does trigger things in my body, to trigger sicknesses, to trigger illnesses, to trigger things in my body. Because everything comes from something, right? Let's just face it. Unfortunately, everything comes from something. Nothing just, comes out of thin air. Everything comes from something. We suffer daily. Give us all grace, God, but we all suffer from lack of knowledge on how we talk to people, how we present ourselves. I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of saying things that maybe I thought were cute, but they might have sounded harsh, But during the moment, I didn't see it, just like maybe you. But you have to look at life and think to yourself, you know what? I got this way from this. I got this way from that. And when the moment you do, you say, now that I can recognize what happened to me, how I got the way I am, then I can disconnect from the thing that did this to me, or the person or the food or whatever that now did this to me. I can disconnect now from that, because now I can take on a new reality with a deeper revelation to say, I have a choice here. Okay, I have a choice here. I can either connect myself to the problem that made me this way, which will take you down a bad negative path, all right? Or you can say, let me explain this to you. Let me explain this to you. It's like within my own life, it's like, for example, if I were to say, which I had dynamic, wonderful parents. My mother's still alive, dynamic. But if I was to sit here and say, okay, I recognize the acknowledgement of this and this and this is how she made me, he made me, whether they meant to do it, which I doubt they meant to do it, out of lack of knowledge, I became this person from their persona towards me. I didn't know that. I was younger. You get older, you get this, and then you detach from that. So I no longer blame them, but I also can begin to heal from my disconnecting from the very source that maybe helped bring that out in me, or formulated my brain to be that way. Now I can disconnect from the thing or the person who now did this to me. Now my healing can begin, because the more that I attach myself to the problem or the person or the thing, then the moment I continue to connect myself to that, the moment I cannot allow myself to heal, nor can I allow myself to actually bring an easy feeling. In other words, a healing, the balm of Gilead, the healing, because I'm still going to feel diseased, because I'm still connected to the thing of the source that actually helped bring this, helped program me from the very beginning. Does that make sense? That's why you have to begin to disconnect and then begin to realize now I can be able to heal, and I can see that person or that thing in a different light now that I'm disconnected from them. Now I can have compassion, grace, understanding. It's like this, for example. It's like saying, and this is just an example. Please understand, folks, because we're talking about sicknesses and diseases, and they're real. So this is just an example. So grace, right? Because, hey, let's just face it. We live in a culture where we all suffer from some type of elements, and we all tend to fight that thing that all of us can't stand, which is weight issue. God, that is every one of us. We struggle from that. And let's just face it, they put sugar in everything, right? You go to restaurants, nice foods, and you're like, oh, this looks healthy. Somehow there's some kind of sweetener in that. Either it's some kind of artificial sweetener, which is taboo in my home. I do not allow saccharin or anything. Saying Diet Coke in my home is worse than a four-letter word, because I don't allow that stuff in this house at all. And so because that, I know what it brings out. But my point being with that is it's like, for example, if I look at something, I say, man, those Twinkies, or man, whatever I've been drinking or eating has put weight on me, whatever. If I don't disconnect from that, here's what happens. If I stay connected to the food or the source that has maybe made me lethargic or maybe put weight on me or whatever, the more I connect myself to it, what happens is then I look at that thing after a while and say, oh, I hate that. I can't stand that food. Look what it did to me. And see, and then you begin to formulate, once again, a blame game. What you want to do is realize, you know what? Not all food's bad for us, right? And some things in moderation can be okay for us. However, you want to disconnect, but to where you give that thing grace, you give that food, or you give what it is, you give it grace then to realize, you know what? I can no longer blame you because I'm the one that consumed you. So because of that, I'm going to disconnect, and I'm going to now learn to realize you're not bad. My thoughts toward you of maybe consuming too much or whatever made you bad, but you're not bad within yourself. Does that make sense? Because then you have to look at Peter, who said, when the vision of, don't call unclean what I call now clean. And so you can't look at things, and people look at people the same way. Before long, you say connected to, your mom, your dad, your ex-husband, your ex-wife, whatever, and you say connected to that mentally, you're still bringing on dis-ease in your spirit, in your soul, which actually can turn into a sickness and disease. But if you say connected to that, what happens after a while, you begin to formulate bitterness and hatred, and why do they do this to me? But if you disconnect from that, you can look and say from a distance, you can say, you know what, now that I've disconnected soulishly from you, the food or the person or the job or the ex or whatever, the more that I disconnect from that, you can still love them, or see them from afar, but the moment you disconnect from that, then you realize that, you know what, I did allow you to affect me. Maybe because I loved you so much. I did, or maybe I trusted you so much. Or I did allow this food, because I trusted the food, but yet at the end of the day, lesson learned, right? And when we disconnect from that, we can have more of a grace for it or for them. We can have more of a compassion for them. And so I always say, make sure you're connected to things that are bringing you easy, or for lack of better words, love and joy and the vibration of happiness and feeling good. It's okay to feel good. It's okay to feel good. It's okay to look good. It's okay to feel like you look good. It's okay to be around people that not are just praising you, but people that are healthy for you now that you've awakened to the damaging part of seeing an ex that was like, she always put me down. He always cut me down. Well, now that you've awakened to that, now we can disconnect from them, give them grace, pray for them. So we, in return, because you reap what you sow, if I sow grace to that person out of me finally disconnecting from them, what do you think is going to come back to me like a boomerang? Healing and wholeness to me, grace back to me, right? And so you just, it's like, for example, you heard the old term soul ties, where some people can get a soul tie with somebody, maybe they slept with or they were so intimate with, and all of a sudden it's like, man, I can't seem to break apart, because it brings the soul part of you that is now uneasy. It's going to bring you a disease because you don't know how to begin to fight, because you trusted, you put yourself into that. But once you disconnect from that, then you can see it from a different angle, and you can learn to have compassion and grace on the situation and the person. So these are the things you have to be able to think about. So programmed purpose, means now I can reprogram myself with the purpose that I know is good for me, with the purpose I know that is a good intention, with the purpose of me that is going to help me along the path of life to begin to bring out good things in my life, you know? And so these are things I really wanted to bring out today to each one of you to begin to sort of open our eyes, all of our eyes, to see that, you know, the people are not evil or bad. The food is not evil or bad. The boss is not evil or bad. It's sometimes how we interpret things because they or it has hit a weak spot in us. How many just got that? And once someone or something hits a weak spot in us, guess what happens? Then they begin to be the target. It's their, it's like, it's them, it's their fault. He's mean, she's mean. But then you have to realize, sometimes you just realize you got to disconnect from people that you realize you just don't get along with. Or people that you feel like, this person, I have to break up with them because, now that I'm awakened to the fact that they really don't really don't give me really they don't help me in my life, they don't encourage me in my life, and maybe you're not encouraging them as well. I remember a situation. I spoke to a lady a couple of years ago, and she said, my husband's never encouraging to me. I'm thinking about divorcing him. I mean, he just, and it was always, that thing of, he never encourages me in my business. He never encourages me that I look good, no matter what I put on at nighttime, no matter what I put on in the day, no matter how good dinner is, he never encourages me. And right before I started to say something, it's like the Lord prompted me to say, ask her if she does it to him, because she doesn't, Jeremy. And I said, and I brought out the reaping and sowing. I said, do you encourage him for, with this work? Well, he's always tired. He always gets home. He never wants to spend time with me. I said, and I bet you tell him that too, don't you? And she's like, well, yeah, because I want him to acknowledge the fact that, he's tired, he doesn't do anything with me, he doesn't take me to the movies, and all of a sudden you get the ego coming out, you get the me syndrome coming out, and I asked her, I said, I tell you what, let's try something for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, you go and encourage him. You tell him, hey, you know what, I'm so glad you're home, honey. Hey, you know what, you look good today. Encourage him. Tell him you're thankful that he works and brings home, money, for the house or the kids or whatever, and start encouraging him. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, guess what? Guess who started getting roses brought to her? Guess who began to have a great intimacy again? Are you with me? Because you have to think for a moment, are you planting into a field that you're going to reap back? If you're not planting in a field anything good, you're not going to get anything back in good return. So it's not. So you have to begin to look at stuff, see it from a different point of view, and say, is this person good for me? Am I treating them good? Am I feeding into them? Because boomerang here, come on, boomerang. I always say, that's a universal sign. That's a universal language, universal law of the kingdom in the entire world is knowing what we put out there comes back to us. So we have to keep that in the forefront of our mind, because it's not always about, I need encouragement. Well, maybe we do. However, what are we giving out in order to know what we're guaranteed to get back into us, right? And so these are just things that, I wanted to bring out today. Went from apples to oranges on that subject, but I wanted to bring out some things to really help program your purpose again, to be able to look and say, you know what, hey, I'm letting my ex go. I'm no longer saying, I'm so tired, he did this to me, 3 years ago. And no, let it go. Let it go. People will still have power over you, and yet they don't even know they have power over you, because you are long gone, dismissed from their mind, but you're still trapped in 3 years ago. And yet your memory of keeping them alive, of how dare him do this to me, guess what? You're still keeping it. You're still keeping alive. You're still literally, we'll say necromancing, talking to the dead. You're still allowing things to resurrect in you and creating a new persona by breathing life, pneuma, life, by bringing life to something that someone else already forgot about and moved on, right? And so you have to begin to look at your life and say, am I keeping something alive? Am I creating it to be bigger? Have I truly let it go? Because in order for me to really have a purpose, to program my mind and my spirit and my soul to a new purpose, I've got to let it go. I remember, God, this is so embarrassing to say this. Help me, Lord. I remember some friends of ours. We were in California. No, yeah, it was in California, and we were in the back seat. God forbid, help me, Lord. And Megan Trainor. I know some of you are so holy you don't listen to anything else besides Hillsongs and Bethel. Well, some of us just like a lot of different genres of music, right? Because to the clean, to the pure, all things are pure. And so the song by Megan Trainor came on, and it's "You Gotta Let It Go." And I mean, we were in the back, we were just jamming out, you gotta let it go. And all of a sudden, it hit me. I'm like, there are things. I feel like God spoke to me and says, "There's things in your life you gotta let go, Jeremy." And so, hey, I let everything prophesy to me in my life. I mean, God can use anything to prophesy to you. So don't be so holier than thou. God can use, my goodness, new Batman movie could prophesy to you. Patton, what is it? What's the name? Patton. He's not the best Batman, by the way, to me. But hey, that's my opinion. But anyway, you got to begin to realize, you got to begin to examine what you're putting out there. You got to begin to examine, have I let him or her go? Have I let them go? My boss was so mean years ago. Let him go. He's no longer in your life. Let him go. Do you think he's thinking about you anymore? No, he's moved on, right? And so we have to begin to understand when a weak spot in us has been triggered. Because sometimes, let me just say this to you, sometimes, we'll say this, a lot of times, God, did I just say God? Yes, God will send someone to you like a Pharaoh, Moses, to push some of your buttons, to find your weaknesses, not to hurt you, but to awaken you to your own reality of weaknesses to where you can get healed from them. And sometimes you will have to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Sometimes you will make your bed in hell, David, but don't worry, God's there for you. So sometimes you need some pharaohs in your life triggering your weak spots to awaken those to say, wait a minute, hold on. Because we're so busy to bind the devil, and God's like, hello, it might be me. Hey, remember me up here? Might just be me. Because don't think for a moment God will not expose your weak points, not to embarrass you, but to say, I need to make you stronger. In order for me to do that, Moses, I got to bring a Pharaoh to push you. My great teaching from that sermon was great because, first of all, it was God, not Satan. Just for those over the top charismatic people, it was God, not Satan. It was God who hardened Pharaoh's heart. Let's get that straight according to Scripture. And yet, here's Moses, and the children of Israel complaining, and they're just, man, we better back in Egypt, and they're going to the Red Sea, and all of a sudden, they get there, and all of a sudden, it's like God hardens Pharaoh's heart, and and you could hear Pharaoh like, oh, I'm getting more angry when I think about them leaving. Wait a minute. How dare them leave? And all of a sudden changes his mind and gets his army together and say, let's go kill them. Let's go after them. So God, that hardened Pharaoh's heart, set a chase for Moses. Why? Because that way he could corner them to the Red Sea, that therefore Moses would be forced to face his fears, be forced to perform a miracle, hold the rod out, have the Red Sea part, and then walk across it, right? Because you have to remember that sometimes God will raise a Pharaoh in your life to say, wait a minute, it's not here to hurt you. You might perceive that they're here to hurt you. They're actually here to make you stronger. Thank you, Kelly Clarkson, in my book. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Sometimes it will make you stronger if you allow it to. So before you're quick to sort of blame Satan all the time, God love him, he gets blamed for everything. Not I'm being sarcastic when I say this, but my goodness, I'm like, geez, people. I think sometimes people worship the devil more than do God. It's like, come on, folks, geez. But anyway, God will expose your weak spots because his main thing for you is to make you strong and to acknowledge the things in your closet to say, hey, deal with those things, get them out of the way. So hey, don't think for a moment God won't harden your boss's heart at times to come after you. Come on. Or maybe some friend and you're like, where did that come from? Well, if it hit a trigger, a weak spot in you, maybe it's something there that God is saying, hello, let's get it out to the surface. And you're like, no, God, I don't want it to come out. No, that's the devil come talking to me. And God's like, nope, it's me. Open up. Open those ancient gates that the King of Glory come in. And you're like, no. So, hey, you know what, Pharaoh, come on board with us, man. I mean, let's be real about it, And so that's what I want you to bring out today. Just know how to program and bring out the purpose that you need in your life. Know the people in your life, how to disconnect from certain ones and look at them from a different point of view. Know who to connect with. And make sure you're sowing and reaping, because you can't reap unless you sow. Make sure that you step out of yourself to take a look at yourself to see maybe how you're acting. Hey, I had to do that recently. And I'm like, oh gosh, why do I have to look at what I just wrote and posted? And it's like, oh. And then you realize, okay, fine, knock me to my knees, God. All right, you won. You won. I see what I've done, and but that's a good thing. That's a really good thing, I mean, so these are things that you're going to find in this book. You're going to find everything and more in this book, Healing from Disease, because the main thing is you got to realize, you might say, well, I'm fit as a fiddle. I don't know where that ever comes from. I guess some southern term, I don't know, northern term, whoever. But, the key thing is, you might say, I'm healthy as a horse. I'm not, as if I guess horses are the healthiest thing on earth. We have crazy sayings here in America. Anybody not from America, I know you're looking, thinking, what on earth do these people talk about? I don't know. But, you have to look and say, I am healthy. Man, nothing wrong with me. Let me tell you something. You might not feel it, but if you are diseased, uncomfortable about anything in your life, be careful. Because if it's not triggering you to acknowledge that, then before long it can and it probably will manifest in some reality for you as a sickness. And so you have to begin to look. That's why we've discovered in science and even in the medical field and just even in metaphysics and churches now. I mean, spirituality and Christianity. I mean, we've realized that certain pains in the body can actually come from unforgiveness. I mean, roots in our life, man, they can manifest from things because your bitterness and your hatred towards somebody happens all the time, man. I mean, neck aches, and maybe I'll write a book on that one day. Neck aches, back aches. Now it's not always that way. Okay, so don't think I got a pain in my neck. My God, I must be an unforgiving, horrible moron. No, you're not. It just basically is saying that sometimes it can manifest in that. You just got to know exactly that either way, no matter how it's in my body, I need to be able to respond by a healthy way to say, you know what? I'm so with you, Nicole. I've realized that I've got to know exactly that I am at peace in my spirit, because peace is the only thing that's nothing missing, nothing broken. Everything else that's fractured or fragmented can and probably will manifest in some shape, form, or fashion in our bodies. It happens to me, happens to all of us all the time. We've got to be on notice about what's going on, all right? So that's why I wrote this book. I'm going to put a series together that I put together on different books on different parts of healing for our lives. And so hopefully you guys will have that soon. But I really want you guys to download this right now. If you order it by book, I'm in the office today. I'll be glad to autograph it for you. If you order by ebook, you'll get it within minutes. But I'm telling you, or seconds, I should say. I'm telling you, this book right here is so needed. Every one of you, no matter if you say, I am so healthy though, Jeremy. Let me tell you something. If you want to keep being healthy, let's make sure this right here doesn't settle inside of you, okay? And so that's what I wanted to teach today. So click on the links today, download it, or order the book today. I love every one of you. And now remember, next week, let's see, I don't have my calendar with me. Next week, we'll already be into, I think, the new year. I mean, not new year. Lord, have mercy, where's my brain? We'll be into the new month. My goodness, we're already in May? What is going on here? We'll already be in May, so we'll talk about our brand new book for May. And so I'm excited. So everyone, share this on your Facebook, on your Instagram. If you're watching me on YouTube, if you're watching on LinkedIn, Zap It, Twitter, and all the other fun activities that you do online. Make sure you're sharing it. Make sure you're getting the notifications when I go live. I will sometimes try to pop in during the week to go live with you guys. Join my TikTok if you get a chance. Sometimes I do funny things. Sometimes I do a little teaching. And sometimes I just get all goofy. Who knows? You don't know what's going to come out of Jeremy. I'm like the wind. I'm coming and going half the time. So join us I'm on all these things. But make sure you're sharing it. You never know who it'll help set free today. I love every one of you. Have a blessed, wonderful, powerful, joyful, magnificent, gracious, merciful, compassionate day today. How's that? Did I cover all of them? Good. Love every one of you. Have a blessed day.